decode Mamdani. He's fighting against a sort of a royalty, Andrew Cuomo. One part is in the context of his heritage, which is immigrant, South Asian, Hindu and a Muslim. But the second part is also what Mamdani is saying, you know. So my question to you is Mamdani to Democrats what Trump was to Republicans in the first tenure, sir?
I think you put it perfectly. In many ways, Mamdani seems to be similar but exact opposite in terms of his politics compared to President Donald Trump. And President Donald Trump indulging excessively with him is giving him greater credibility in that sense. So in some ways, I think the nearest example comes to mind is Sajid Khan, elected as mayor of London, and then goes on to have 3 terms. Here also, I think, other than changing the politics and administration in New York City, this is already redefining the identity issues, the religion, the politics of polarization. Already there are death threats reported against him now. So in that sense, I think it potentially, it's almost certain that Mamdani is the next mayor of New York. But what is deeper in this game-changing election of Mamdani is how it could potentially redefine, particularly the Democratic Party, change the leadership to the younger generation, more radical left-leaning politicians, and also in that sense redefine American politics in many ways, focusing on multiculturalism, immigrants. Already some leaders in US Congress, for example, Ilhan Omar, for example, is another example of Somali immigrant, a guard, security guard, and so on. These kind of politicians would feel much more emboldened to push forward. And then in that sense, the entire politics of America could see some of these voices coming up front. And in that sense, this could become potentially an inflection point. As far as election of mayor is concerned, I think most reports are saying it's already decided that Zohran Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York.
Okay. Okay. I'm also joined by Ambassador Bhaspati Mukherjee. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining me. My question to him was, is Mamdani, what Mamdani is to Democrat today, is it akin to what Trump was for Republicans in his first tenure? But I had a second question to you, ma'am. What does this election mean for larger American politics? New York, it's just not a city, it's a place with a $110 billion budget. It defines American popular culture globally.
I agree with you. I spent 3 years in New York myself, working for the UN, and it is an amazing hotspot of multiculturalism, multi-ethnicity, etc. I think that we should not give too much importance to Mamdani's election, because he is not being elected as President of the United States or as a senator. He is just the mayor of New York. And if Trump does what he's threatened, which is to cut off federal funding, to send the law and order forces in to control immigration, etc., there would be a fight with Mamdani, but Mamdani would lose, because Mamdani may win this election, may not win the next election, because his big capital runs away from New York City because of his socialist policies, which Trump calls communist. And I agree with Trump on that matter, because some of what he's advocating for New York City would not even work today in India. Like, for instance, free busing, rent control. I remember there used to be rent control in India when I was growing up as a kid going to school. There's no more rent control anymore. All these are outdated communist socialist ideas. They're not going to work in New York City, which is the heart of capitalist America. So, moreover, let's not also forget that he is Hindu-phobic, although his mother, Meera Nair, who was my classmate in Miranda House, is not at all Hindu-phobic. His father, who's a Muslim, is not Hindu-phobic either. He's a famous historian.
But why is he only stressing his Muslim lineage? He's born of a Muslim father and a Hindu mother. But if you look at his politics, if you look at his statements, it's one part of the identity which is being acknowledged, pushed, and consumed politically in public.
But that may be a huge strategic error because New York City doesn't consist only of Muslims, not at all. Moreover, when he says outrageous things like, there are no more Muslims left in Gujarat, he keeps saying that. Then he says that if my father goes back to Gujarat, he won't be safe there. Or he says, I won't allow Prime Minister Narendra Modi to come to New York. These are all outrageous statements. We should not even take him seriously because once he becomes mayor, unless he tones down his rhetoric, he is going to have a huge reaction from not just from the MAGA base, but even from the liberal base, which does not approve of what he says. There is also a huge Indian diaspora, not just Hindu Indian,
Okay.
Indian diaspora who are outraged by his comments. So I would say I don't agree with my co-panelists for one thing, Professor Karan Singh, which is that we can't compare this Mamdani with the mayor of London. I